Oh, you know what I just realized? We probably should do like an intro for the A6700. I should use that as the intro? Okay, this is the intro. And I don't wanna take you traveling the world, but I can love you. Yeah, I'm gonna love you. I'll give you all of what I've got. The fancy finds, baby, I have not. Just gonna love you. Yeah, I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna love you, baby. Cross my heart and hope to die. All right, here's the A6700 in all its glory. Very similar to the A6600, has a bigger grip, but it has some really cool AI features borrowed from the A7R5 and ZV-E1. Ooh. All right, real quick, let's talk specs. The Sony a6700 is a 26 megapixel APS-C camera that has the same processor as the Sony a7S III and a7 IV, and the same dedicated AI processor from the a7R5 and ZV-E1. The camera can film 4K 422 10-bit video with full pixel readout, that's 6K oversampling, and you can film 4K video up to 120 frames per second, cropped, or HD video up to 240 frames per second. Oh, and you can also use color profiles like S-Cinetone, S-Log3, or even use your own custom LUTs. Nice. The camera has active mode stabilization, focus breathing compensation, in-camera time-lapse, and has AI-based features like auto-framing and real-time tracking and recognition for humans, animals, insects, birds, cars, planes, and trains. On the outside, the camera has a magnesium alloy chassis and is dust and moisture resistant. The grip is a little bit bigger, making it easier to hold the camera in general. The button layout is the same as usual, with a very familiar button on the corner of the camera. The earlier A6000 cameras had the record button in the corner, but now it's an assignable custom button, so cool little throwback. There's an OLED EVF, which is kind of small, but it has a similar brightness as the A7R5. As for the flip-out screen, it has touch capabilities, including swiping up to access settings of the camera while filming, and of course, touch capabilities while navigating through the menu. On the side are the ports of the camera. There's the mic jack, the USB-C port with power delivery, one SD card slot, a micro HDMI port, and a headphone jack. Oh, and lastly, the A6700 uses the Sony Z batteries. All right, so is APS-C dead? No. If you think so, that's pretty stupid thinking, because the A6700 is a pretty dang good APS-C camera. I mean, you're filming 4K 10-bit video, like that's really cool. And I feel like the right way to use APS-C cameras is to use the right lens. Right now, we're filming with the Sony 11mm f1.8. And so with the crop factor, that's gonna give you like roughly a 16mm full frame equivalent. And that kind of aligns with my Sony 16 to 35mm lens with a full frame Sony camera. But yeah, I don't think APS-C is dead. I think APS-C is great, it's cool. So the AI processor is really great with the A6700. It recognizes human subjects and skeletal movements and makes sure that the subject face, eyes, all in focus. That's great. And it does borrow a feature from the ZV-E1, auto framing, where basically the camera almost acts like a second camera person and zooms in on the subject and zooms out. It's really cool. And so we're gonna test it out right now. All right, so we have auto framing turned on right now on the A6700. I see this white box around me indicating that it's filming the entire width of this scene. But if I step back, the camera should zoom in on me, making sure that I am in the center of the frame. That's nuts. Can you see the white box? Yeah? Okay, so I'm gonna just walk across and the box should follow me, still keeping me in the center of the frame, which is pretty cool. And so if you're the type to film by yourself and you wanna make sure that you're in the center of the frame as you're walking and talking, like the A6700, like that's a great camera to use, man. That's awesome. And then if I go closer to the camera, the white box is going to expand, still keeping me in the center, which is so insane that it does this. It's so cool, man. Now, as much as I love auto framing, there is a feature not borrowed from the ZV-E1, and that's framing stabilizer. Basically, that just keeps whatever you're filming, whatever subject that you're focusing the camera on, extremely steady, like almost as if you're on a tripod. That would have been really cool to have on this camera, but I don't know, maybe they're just reserving that specifically for the ZV-E1. But auto framing, that's still pretty cool. I dig that. I dig that a lot. All right, we got the Sony ZV E10. I love this camera. It's great. And I know a lot of people have bought the ZV-E10, which is totally cool. But honestly, the A6700 is a better APS-C camera. But we're going to compare, and I'm sure the footage is going to look very, very similar. But with the AI features in the A6700, it's like, I don't know, maybe puts the ZV-E10 in the dust. Oh, I totally forgot the ZV-E10 has the old Sony menu system. I don't like that menu system. I much prefer the new menu system on the A6700. Okay, so we have both cameras side by side. We have the Sony A6700. You got the ZV-E10. Oh, the ZV-E10 is smaller than the A6700. Okay, that's cool, cool, cool. But both cameras are using the 15mm G lens at f1.4, so it should look very similar. We're not filming in S-Cinetone because the ZV-E10 does not shoot S-Cinetone. We're not using any profiles at all, but same exact shutter speed at 1/400th of a second, f1.4, ISO 125, daylight, and they should look fairly similar. This kind of reminds me how good the 15mm G lens really is. That's like one of my favorite APS-C lenses ever made. Let's see which one do you guys think is better? A6700, ZV-E10. All right, let's switch over to photography. Let's take a picture with the ZV-E10 first. So on the ZV-E10, you have that mode switch button, which honestly, I'm not a big fan of. I much prefer having a dial, a mode dial on this camera. It's just easy to switch to different modes, you know? All right, shooting first with the ZV-E10. Shooting f1.4, 1/400th of a second. Okay, cool. Do the same thing over here. All right, here we go. Now we are shooting with the A6700. Not gonna lie, I like the feel of the A6700. It feels great.
What makes you like taking photos more with that one than the other one?
Honestly, I think the bigger grip.
Okay.
Just feels like a photographer's camera, you know, very, very similar to like the bigger grips on full frame cameras, like the A7R5. Like I have small hands, so like I can easily grip this camera quite easily. Love the bigger grip. Uses the same Sony Z batteries as the full frame cameras. I love the dial mode, way better than the dial button. That's cool. You do have this really small, tiny viewfinder, which is very similar to the A7C. I didn't like that viewfinder, but it's a viewfinder, and that's kind of cool. Where with the ZV-E10, there's no viewfinder at all. I'd probably say like the advantage that the ZV-E10 has over the A6700 is product showcase. That's pretty much it. Other than that, the A6700 is a much better APS-C camera. All right, so we're gonna do a stabilization test with the A6700. We're just gonna walk down over here and we're gonna try it without any stabilization on, then we'll try it with standard, and then finally with active stabilization. All right, so we've turned off stabilization on the A6700, and we're just gonna walk and talk and compare. Here we go. You hear that? Those bugs? Those are called cicadas. They're everywhere. All right, so we've turned on standard stabilization. Here we go! I don't know where my phone is. Ah, there it is. Classic me. All right, now we have active stabilization turned on. There is a crop factor, just because it needs to like crop in and stabilize even more, but here we go. I don't know where Tyler went. Oh, there he is. Hi, Tyler.
Do you have any thoughts about the different stabilization modes yet?
Yeah, so honestly, the standard stabilization is what I use most times on all Sony cameras. Like they're just that good. Active stabilization I only use if I want to get gimbal-like movements or shots without using a gimbal. Really good for B-roll stuff because like, it crops in on your shot a little bit more, so it kind of makes it a little more difficult to vlog with because it crops in. But stabilization on the newer Sony cameras are just really good. All right, so Tyler is still filming B-roll of the camera, but while he's filming, I want to test out the microphone capabilities of the A6700. It's not the same intelligent 3-capsule mic from the ZV-E1. It's like a tiny little microphone on the top of the camera, and it's quite windy, so you're probably going to hear some of that wind noise. But yeah, this is what the audio sounds like coming from the A6700. Earlier, I shot with the Sony ECM B10 digital mic. That's obviously going to sound a lot better. But yeah, just wanted to capture some audio recorded on this camera. Even though it's a lighter camera, because my arms are so weak, I'm starting to feel the pain, the burn. All right, let's talk about some pros and cons of the A6700. Pros, I love that it's a worthy upgrade to the A6600. 4K 120, It is cropped, but you know, whatever, doesn't really bother me. But you can film 4K 10-bit video internally, so that's pretty cool. I do like that it has the same AI processor as the A7R5 and the ZV-E1. Like, that's just very handy to have for all photographers and videographers. It is a shame that it's not borrowing the framing stabilizer feature from the ZV-E1, but you know, the auto framing feature is pretty cool too. I love the new tile menu system. I love that it supports quick charging with a USB-C cable. And overall, yeah, it's just a really, really great APS-C camera. Now, some things I don't like about this camera: it crops when you're filming 4K 120. That kind of sucks, but at least I can film 4K 120. And again, the fact that it doesn't feature the framing stabilizer from the ZV-E1, even though it has a dedicated AI processor, like, that's kind of a bummer. But honestly, other than that, it's a pretty sick camera. All right, so who is the camera for? I feel like the A6700 is for the photographer, the filmmaker that wants to film high quality video and photos, but they're on a budget. Like, full frame cameras are really expensive, but APS-C cameras are a lot more affordable. The APS-C lenses are more affordable as well. And I do feel like if you are using the right lens with an APS-C camera, like, you're gonna capture some pretty amazing stuff. And so yeah, it all depends on the lens that you're using, I feel. All right, well, that's the A6700. Let me know what you think of the camera, or if you have any questions about the camera. We're gonna go film another video because I gotta return all these Sony products today. And so, yeah, out of here. Bye.